So our setup for our van. So we've got a Jayco Starcraft Outback version, so it's a semi-off-road, or it's not full off-road, it's a semi-off-road sort of van. It's a 20-foot, just over 20-foot caravan. So yeah, full-size caravan. It's not an expander, it's not a pop top or anything like that. It's a full-size van. It has 2 bunks. They're larger bunks too, so they're probably really good for teenagers as well. And we've got a queen island bed inside. So it's an en-suited van that's got all the bells and whistles for us, which works really well. So, blackjack. So, we do have our standard jockey wheel here that came with the caravan. So it's, you know, clamp on the outside of the drawbar, which is, I don't know why they do that, but anyway, on the outside of the drawbar, wind up, wind down, and it's a wheel. Quite frankly, for this size van, I'm not going to move any of this by hand. I'm not going to move it around. I kind of want it where I detach or where it hits the ground, that's where I want it to stay, rather than it wheeling around and so forth. I got a blackjack. It's electric. It's not hydraulic. I don't need to pump it up and all the rest of it and fiddle around with knobs. It's all push button control. There are 2 buttons underneath here. So there's a light. So at night time we can take the cover off, have a look at what we're hitching, unhitching with a light here. And the other switch is up or down. Pretty simple. I hitch and unhitch by a push of a button with this blackjack. The other thing too is that I load and unload these weight distribution bars by connecting the coupling up onto the ball, lock it on, and then I raise the whole lot into a bit of an apex, including the back of the Jeep. I raise it all up. There's just enough angle to actually get the bars up on here by hand. I don't need any leverage bars. And it's the same thing for unhitching. When it comes to unhitching, I don't need to worry about bars flinging back down onto the ground, when, especially in a hot, humid climate, when you're sweaty and sweaty hands and you got your safety thongs, so those bars are really good for whacking toes when you unhitch them. I don't have to worry about any of that. Push button control. I just raise the top, grab these bars, and very controlled, take them all off by hand. No effort whatsoever. Best thing you can buy for hitching and unhitching is an electric jack, and this blackjack actually has a higher lift capacity than a lot of the hydraulic jacks out there on the market today. So again, speak to the guys at Titan RV down at Cleveland. This combination of electric jack and sway control bars that have weight distribution all included, when it comes to towing, you will never go back to the old systems that we've known in Australia for, you know, years and years. This stuff is here. It's available. You've got to jump onto it, believe me. Up the front here, look, I've kind of secured down these crab pots. Still waiting for the opportunity to use it. Dual gas bottles. I have put gauges on them so we can actually see at what point how much gas I have, so it is very important to use them. Turn them on, push the gauge in, and the gas will then start flowing. If you don't push that gauge in, your gas won't flow. It's the biggest problem that a lot of people have had with these things over the years, so good to have the gauge. Right, so further, I don't know if you can see underneath there, further to the stone guard, I've actually put in mud flaps underneath the van. So these stop a lot of the rocks from coming in underneath and just annihilating all the plumbing, so your gas lines, your water lines and all the rest of it underneath the van. So all these are preventative measures to try and reduce the amount of damage that stones are having to flick up underneath the van. So very cheap one to have. Through boot, pretty straightforward. So we don't have a front boot, we've got a tunnel boot at the front here. We store our chocks and water, plumbing hoses and bits and pieces in here. Hot water system, old school. So we still got the hot water system, so we've got a tank underneath here. Good things and bad things. The newer versions have infinity hot water, so it's hot water on demand. But from what I hear from a lot of those owners is that you actually tend to go through quite a bit of water before the hot water comes. So technology isn't always great.
You want to have some cable, Ken? mate. Go with Gramps. Oh,
so we've got our hose system. We've got a pretty basic filtration system on here. So this is a Stefani water filter we got from Bunnings. It was literally 20 bucks for one of these filters, and it's quite a small micron. I think it's I don't know. It's pretty small. It filters out quite a lot of the crap in the water, so it does very well. Again, these things cost 100 bucks or so from caravan shops, but we've got a basic one from Bunnings and definitely does do the job very well. Wheel chocks. One of the biggest problems that we have with tandem caravans is to get a chock that fits in between these two wheels. A lot of people use those red and black two-piece wheel ramps, and they're a pain in the bum, and they're big too. These are the Anderson camper levelers, I think they're called, and it's like a half moon shape. Now all I do is shove it in between this wheel, and we either drive up or back up onto it, and as it rolls it lifts the van up to exactly the same height as all the other ramps on the market. So you've got 100mm worth of lift out of these ramps. If you've got a tandem axle trailer or caravan, do yourself a favour, don't muck around with those red and black chock ramps. They're a pain in the bum and they're big and cumbersome to carry. Get these camper levelers from Anderson, again, Titan RV at Cleveland. Brilliant bit of kit, small, compact, easy to use. I think each one of those ramps can take about, I don't know, 9 or so tonne per ramp, so I think you're pretty safe with the capacity of these things. They're brilliant bit of kit. Toilet, pretty easy sort of stuff. I'm not going to show you the toilet. Back locker. So in here is all our sort of, this is the boot that also goes through underneath Mikey's bunk, which you might see inside. So we can either access it from the outside, or inside the van we can lift up the bunk and gain access to this boot. So quite a handy bit of kit. All our shade cloths, chairs, tables, all that sort of stuff fits in the back here. So what else? Oh, pretty basic stuff. Bike rack. When we originally were buying a caravan, we weren't really fussed about having bike racks. This came with it. Pretty glad it did, actually. It's a brilliant bit of bike rack. We are traveling around the country with the kids' bikes. I'm so glad we actually have it on the van. Definitely been well worth having this bike rack. So you can actually extend this thing out to 4 bikes. So there's a adjustment here, so you can actually slide it out and put 2 more racks or 2 more rails in there. 2 for us is fine. Tube. You might have seen previous videos where I've actually installed this tube. So all our rafters and awning and anti-flap kits all sitting here, which is really quite handy to have. This is what I added on. Is behind here are the diesel jerry cans. So I've actually welded it onto the rear bar and as well as onto the upright brace that holds the spare wheel, so it's quite a solid point to hold these 2 jerry cans behind. I don't want a huge amount of weight at the back of the van, because adding weight at the back actually starts to increase the amount of tail wag or sway in the back of the van, so you've got to be very careful about how much stuff you add in around here. Garbage bag, everyone's got these on vans. The actual van also came with a reversing camera. We haven't actually connected it up to the tow vehicle. All the connections are up in the A-frame up the front there, just to plug in the camera, but we haven't got the capacity in our Jeep to actually connect that one up. I haven't put all the hardware into the Jeep, so anyway. So it's a little messy in here, but this is caravanning with the family. It's just the way it goes. So this is our awning, and while we're here in Darwin, it's probably a little bit too hot to even be out here during the day. It's actually quite stifling humid. Not stifling, but yeah, it's more comfortable in the air conditioning. As we said before, we don't carry our full wall annex. This is as set up as we get for outside here. So we've got our long side wall shade screen. Again, blocks the sun and gives us a bit of privacy from, especially in caravan parks where you're all bunched in close together with other people, a bit of privacy from your neighbours and so forth. So we've got one here, and we've got an and wall and shade screen. Again, afternoon sun, privacy and so forth. This are the only two sides that we really need to block out any privacy. So that's what they're light, they're easy to carry, we don't need a full weather annex as such. So curved roof rafters hold the awning or the vinyl in place. So again, for this size awning, it's about an 18-foot length, I think, awning on this 20-foot van. Definitely well worth having curved roof rafters up in here. And we've got anti-flap kits on the end here too, so they clamp and hold on to this vinyl, stop it from flapping around in the wind. That drives you nuts. You actually feel it in the van too, so on windy days, and even at night time when there's a bit of a breeze, even that flutter is enough to actually feel it in the van and drives you nuts. So great to have an anti-flap kit at either end of the vinyl. It also is a good way to hold any of your walls, annex, shade screens and so forth. Saves having a Velcro on this sort of stuff over the bar, so anti-flap kit's really good to have on the awning. What else really? That's just standard barbecue. We have this Weber Q, baby Q. We had this on for 12 years we've had this thing. It is coming to the end of its life. It's seen better days, but it's done a lot of travelling. It's been around the country a couple of times now, so that's all plumbed in through the bayonet connector into the front gas cylinders. So again, just really easy to carry around with and so forth. We carry tables and chairs for out here, so we do have two pew type benches, but we found actually just having it up against the van under the light, and it's just easy. It gives a lot more space out here, usable space and so forth. One pew fits all of us quite easily. So apart from that, we've got a picnic table that folds down. We've got to be careful when it comes to cooking stuff. You've got to make sure the window is shut, because just up there is a smoke alarm. Discovered that a few times. So out here is the outside hatch to what's underneath the TV. So out here we open this up, and there's our TV connector, and we can put the TV on out here. We haven't really used it that much, I'll be quite honest. I'm not really fussed to be watching TV out in the annex, but you know, when you have kids, sometimes it's good to have it on to keep them entertained. We call it the babysitter. Apart from that, oh, we do have a generator. So down there we've carried a generator. It's a 3.1 kVA, so it's enough to run our air conditioning and everything we need to in the van. So it is big, it's cumbersome, but it's good backup to have when you're free camping and you just need to blast the aircon a bit to cool the van down before bed. So for us it's handy to have. We quite like it. Apart from that, that's our van. That's the outside.
Hello, come in. So welcome to our van. I know previously we've done a bit of a review on the outside of the van. We haven't actually done one on the inside of the van. So you would have noticed coming in that unlike most other Jayco layouts, the entry's at the back of the van. So right as you come in to the van, you come into the bunk area. So our bunks are east-west bunks as opposed to the north-south bunks that you get in the modern vans. I should point out our van is 2016 model, so it is a little older, I suppose. So you come into our van, you've got the bunk area. So up here we've got Alice's bunk. Alice gets the penthouse of the van, as we call it.
Hi guys, I'm gonna let you guys have a tour of my bunk. Come on.
Are we allowed to enter?
Yes. So this is my bunk. I have some fairy lights, and they are yellow ones. I have a little picture here, and an umbrella goes here, but it's out of my bunk right now. And this is my Harry Potter book. My wand is here. And my Hermione is in the corner here. And my fan's next to my pillow with my dolly next there. And this is where I put all my books and stuff, but I put this up here because it's the special one. And this is where all my toys go. And I have a fence so that I don't fall out. And a sign for everybody. And some stairs. Goodbye.
The only thing we added to this particular bunk is a little handle for going up and down the stairs and a little barrier. So if you've been with us for a little while, the very first post we put up was about our first trip. We took our first trip in the caravan and Alice fell out of her bunk in the middle of the night. Now I'm about 170 odd centimeters, so it's quite a high, it's about 1.5 meters drop to the ground. She fractured her wrist, so that was the very first thing Nigel added for her, was one of these. Now we just bought one of these from Kmart, $15 or so from Kmart, just slip it in under the mattress, the little handle, and so, you know, this way she can't fall out. Michael's bunk's down the bottom, so it's essentially the same thing as up the top. Yes, Alice is very particular about her, about who gets to go in.
Hello, I'm going to show you my bunk. And this, right now, I'm going to show you it. Enter. You are allowed to enter. You see, my favorite blankie. I like to huggle in it. Oh, and this is my favorite little tiger. My favorite teddy. It's called Rocky. This is Rocky, my favorite tiger. Charlie, the bilby. Tom, the dingo. And then this is my unnamed cushion. Right now, for now, I'm calling it a little Donna. It's little. And this is all like to storage. This is like play stuff in here. And this is where I put like all my like activities, books and coloring. And this is my face. And this, look at that. What does that look like? Oh, and I also got my Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets book up here. And I also got my wand that Dad like shredded. Here's my wand. Parsons. And the scar. And I just love the look at here, but look at Dobby. He's very weird. I love it. So that's my bike. Bye. I'll see you next time.
One of the things that's been really, really helpful for Mike has been to bring his weighted blanket, his calming blanket. He calls it Big Hug. So it's probably the best thing that we've purchased for him. He loves that thing. He'll sleep under that, you know, whether it's 55 degrees outside or whether it's 10 degrees outside. Yeah, he really enjoys that. So that was our one thing that we said, if we're going to go on this trip, we'll bring Big Hug with us because it's very calming for him and he quite enjoys that. So that's the bunks. The kids have got their clothes up here, so they are quite deep. They go all the way down to the back. So Alice got her stuff there, Michael's got his stuff there, sorry it's a bit messy. And then we've got some spare linen and things up there for them. Down here we've got towels and some things if you wanted to go out, like helmets and umbrellas and things, you know, sort of those last minute things you want to grab before you go out. So Nigel's bought these are magnetic fly screen from a dollar shop. I think it was about $5 or something. Cut to size and stuck it in, took the headboard bit off and stuck it on underneath, and then put this back on. So these are magnetic and they come back together. It's just a little extra for the flies, particularly in central Australia. The flies are quite bad.
The other really good thing about having this sort of layout, as opposed to the newer versions of this van that have the door at the front before the kitchen by the master bed, and having ensuite and bunks sort of, you know, facing north-south along this way towards the back of the van, is that we actually get quite a bit of airflow at the back of the van. So there's not a huge amount of heat build-up for this van at the back. So because you've got the door right here, and you still got the aircon sort of blowing directly down to this end of the van, you don't have a hot area of the van, so it actually gets just as much airflow as we do at the other end of the van. So I guess, you know, having the bunks, having a door like this at the back has its pros and cons, but definitely one of the benefits and one of the pros is definitely that airflow. Even when it's not stinking hot here, like when you're sort of, you know, more temperate sort of climates where you can have windows and doors open, it's fantastic for the kids to get that sort of that aeration through the back here. And also probably one of the benefits too, which I'll make mention again, is that having the bunks east-west in the van shortens the length of this van. So we don't need to have that. Well, we actually take off about 2 or 3 feet off the overall length of this van purely by having the bunks this way. For the kids, they couldn't care less if they're facing north, south or east or west. It's bed, you know, they're fine. So definitely having it this way definitely has a benefit for shortening the length of this van quite considerably. So, and you still get 2 bunks, and they're big bunks too. Yeah, so that's the other thing. When we started planning for this trip, I was following a lot of people, and they were, you know, talking about the bedding and the bed sheets and things like that, and where to get them from. And so there was this big thing about IKEA bed sheets from the particular brand, because of for the extender beds or something. Now the thing with these bunks is they're actually 180 long, so that's the same length as your standard single bed. They're just a little bit narrower, so it's actually quite comfortable. I've slept in these because at some nights Alice will have a bad dream or something and come and bunk in with us, and then I get jack of it, so I end up sleeping in her bunk. It's long enough to do that because they're just a normal single length. They're just a little bit narrower. So we just use a normal single size sheets and the single doona, and that seems to work fine. You just got to tuck it in on the sides, and don't get me started on making the beds. It's a nightmare. Whole nother story. Now, also on the kids' side is our shower toilet. It's functional, it's got everything in it. Sure, it's not huge, but it actually fits us all quite comfortably. You can quite comfortably have a shower in here, wash your hair and do all that sort of stuff. Yeah, and be quite good in there. So the other thing that Nigel added in here, I'll get in also to show you perspective of size. The light is here, and it's right on the ceiling, so our kids can't reach that. So what Nigel added was a sensor light, so that at night, if the kids come in, as soon as you open the door and it notices that you're here, the light will come on, so they don't have to reach up there to turn the light on. So that's very handy. Obviously we added some storage so that we could have our shampoos and our toothbrushes and stuff all up here. A holder for the towel and a holder for the toilet roll. So yeah. So that's good. So the other thing, I think, again, back to the layout, is when you have the layout with the bunks this way and then the ensuite opposite side of that, it actually narrows that section of the van quite significantly. So you kind of have this walkway and everything is sort of a bit more closed in.
We don't have that feeling in this van. This van feels really open for us, and you come in and it's just this big open space. So we have our dinette. So it fits us, the 4 of us, quite comfortably. You know, the kids usually sit by the window and we sit here. The table also folds up so that you can have, you know, if you just want to have a cafe style thing and you just have more leg room. We also put that up when we travel so that we can use this area underneath for storage. Pretty standard, I think, for all vans to have these little dinette areas. Kitchen too. Lots of storage in this kitchen, which we really love. So everywhere is storage up here. Lots of drawer space, lots of cupboards down here. Your usual standard caravan stove with the 3 gas and 1 electric, and your oven. So this oven's actually quite big. Well, I think it's quite big. Our previous van didn't have an oven like this, and we just had a little grilling thing which was probably only about that big. So that's pretty good. I don't use it an awful lot, the oven. Don't know why. We cook mostly outside anyway. We cook inside for, you know, fruits, vegetables and that kind of stuff, but most of the cooking is done outside. Full-size fridge. Oh yeah, so Nigel added this for our knives and stuff. So we take them down when we travel, obviously. We don't want the knives there. But it's just nice to have them up here and out of reach of little hands, because really otherwise they're in the drawer and then hands go in and they get cut on knives pretty easily. So this way, that's out of the way, and it adds a nice little thing to the wall, and otherwise it's so beige. Full-size fridge, freezer, again, really cool. So it's a 3-way, so it goes on electric or gas or battery. We just have it on automatic and it just chooses, which is fine. Freezer, quite big, fits in quite a bit. I will say that it takes a while to freeze things. It will keep things frozen, but if it has to freeze things, it takes a little bit longer, a couple of days or so, to actually freeze something. And then the microwave, obviously, again, fairly standard in caravans. So yeah, that's our kitchen space. We've got a little thermometer up here that we've hooked into the fridge so we can see what the temps inside the fridge and inside the van. We're sitting on a nice comfy 26 degrees because we've got the aircon running. That's, I suppose, the other thing. It's been such a godsend for us. You know, we're Queenslanders, and so we're not, well, you say that, but southern Queensland, and so we're not very good with this heat. We're currently at the top end in Darwin, and it is quite hot here.
I don't know if it's 26 because this one says 26.
Yeah, and that one says 23.
Yeah, this one says 23.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I think this is.
It's
I think
probably
it's
23.
I'll be okay. It's
Yeah.
23.
Feeling a little fresh in here. So that's it. You know, for us, this kind of heat, you know, it is quite hot. And when we did our last trip, we noticed that particularly around the top end area, it just gets more and more humid, and so that heat does take it out of you. So we've been very fortunate to have a van with air conditioning this time.
But it's it definitely is awesome having all this storage up here. So here we've got a bit of a shelf for like everyday sort of stuff, so wallets, sunglasses, you know, tissues and so forth. 2-way radios, so we definitely use that for the kids. So when they're around camp and they want to go off riding, they can take a radio with them and we can stay in touch with them. So up in the cupboards here we have a bit of like our power sort of cupboard. So here's our charging bank. So I've put a power board up in there, so it runs through into this point just here. So essentially we just have all our charging for, you know, GoPro batteries, drone batteries, tablets, cordless drill, pretty much all the gear sits in there, so it's really quite handy to have it all tucked away. Hate cables. And then you've got storage, nothing's going to fall out. Obviously you have bits and pieces, so books and other stuff there, so I won't go into that one in too much detail.
Other stuff.
But as you say, we've got, yeah, plenty of cupboard space. Oh, very important, this is a great cupboard. So plenty of wine, gin, and all our pantry stuff. So again, pantry, fresh breads.
It's really messy in there. I don't know.
It is very messy in
Opening all
there.
these things up.
I know.
Messy, yes.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Correct.
And then we use also, there's a drawer down
this
there.
one for all the heavy stuff. So these are all your packet things and all your, you know, cooking stuff, rice and flour and cooking mixes to make dinners and stuff, and noodles for the kids. Onto my favourite part of the van. This was my #1 wish list for this van, was to have one of these island beds. So this is a full queen size bed, and I completely love it. So in our last van it was a double and it was east-west, and you know, I'm not the youngest person in the world anymore.
And I'm not the smallest either.
And climbing over each other to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night got a bit tedious. So this was my #1 wish list, was to have one of these island beds where you can walk around, and then everyone has their own little entry and exit point to the bed. What I love about this layout then too is just all the windows. So we have windows on all sides of the bed, and it provides for fabulous airflow. So yes, we have windows on both sides, on the head end, and obviously the hatch up the top. So it just provides for fabulous airflow while you're in here. So yeah, this would be my favorite part of the van, is just this fabulous layout of the bed. Lots of storage in here too. So you may have seen in our first or second video, Nigel's done some mods inside the cupboard. Sorry, mine is a bit messy. So this used to be, these two shelves used to not be here, and it was just hanging space. Now, I prefer shelving for my clothing. I don't have much of anything that needs hanging. I know I've got this dress hanging up at the moment, but yeah, he's just put a little hook there so you can just hang something on the door and do it that way. But yeah, I don't have much use for hanging stuff, so I wanted more shelving so it can fit more in. So yeah, this is all my clothes. This is all that we've got. It's definitely more than enough. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. So yeah, that's fab. And then up here we have more storage space, which is currently being used for our medicine cabinet. I will at one point go over all of Michael's medicine, but they're mostly in here. So Michael has a number of medical conditions outside of ASD and ADHD, so he has quite a few bits of medication that we have to bring with in the event of him getting sick. So can go over that some other time. But that's so that's all stored up there. Up there is the same sort of thing above Nigel's head, but there's we keep the drone there, and we keep some other bits and pieces there, and then all of his clothes are on, obviously, on that side of the bed. So yeah, this is really good layout for us. And we've got the telly here as well, so it's on one of these swing arm things, so that you can have it here, or you can swing it round so that kids can watch it while they're eating. Not that we do that more often. And there's also a swing arm bit outside, so you can take the telly off this hinge and pull out the arm on the outside and just hang it out there so that they can watch it when they're outside. Sorry, I can hear them outside, they're playing. I don't know what they're doing, something. Yeah.
So really the other cool thing about also the layout is that we have this little shelf here for fan, like we put our fan there that's, you know, connected to power. So not always do we want to have this air conditioning on and running, because it actually does get very cold at night. So usually when it comes to night time, the air temp drops down a bit. The van is pretty well insulated, so it actually holds a fair amount of the cool air. So we don't really need to have it on 24/7. During the day, yeah, definitely. But then all we really need to have is this fan. So we've opted for these sort of portable Coleman fans, because it runs on 240, 12 volts, and it's got its own power, battery power as well. So we essentially can have this fan running in any sort of situation. It's a big fan. It's like a 30-centimeter fan, I think it is. So plenty of airflow.
Yeah.
Definitely for the both of us. So we don't need those sort of permanent Sirocco fans, which are great, but for us, this is a lot more versatile and it moves a lot more air.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
So if I wanted to, I can turn that off, unplug it, grab it, maybe sit it over here for the day, and you know.
Like if you're doing some stuff in the kitchen, you have to move it across the battery.
There we go. And portable. It's also got a little light. You turn the light on if you have it at night or something. But yeah, we just found that much more useful for us. So we have 2 of those, and usually one sits at our end and one sits at the kids' end, or we pull it out and put it outside if we're eating out or something, or we can sit it up on the bench, you know, rather than having to buy 4 fans of those bolted in ones, the Sirocco ones, permanent ones.
They're not cheap, those fans.
No, they're not cheap.
They're actually quite expensive.
Yeah.
At least with this, I think they're on special for us. I think it cost me $60 or $50 each.
Yeah.
So they're definitely well worth it.
Yeah.
For us anyway, it works well for us. Cheap, versatile, perfect for us. So yeah. So
yeah, I think that's our van. Unless there's anything that you think I've missed.
Oh, the other thing too. So with the new vans, well, should I say the more modern vans, the fridge usually sits on the lee side, on the other side of the van, and really for the main reason by today's standards is that when they built this van, and shortly after that, new rules and regulations came in about having the exhaust. So if you've got this running on gas, the exhaust runs out into the annex area. So obviously you can't have a fully enclosed annex, or it's, you know, I think they've got rules and regulations on that nowadays.
Yeah.
But we still have a full annex for this van, because all the annex was supplied prior to those rules coming in. We have hardly put that on gas. It's been on 240 volt the whole time, so you don't really get those sort of exhaust gases coming out, which is great.
And we don't put the annex up anyway. No. It's too much effort. And if we're only, you know, at the moment we're traveling, you know, for a finite period of time, and we're usually only in a place for 2-3 nights. We've happened to have been here for about a week, but usually it's only 2 or 3 nights or so that we're somewhere. So it's just all this effort to put up an annex.
And it adds weight.
And it's, weight. We didn't even bring it. It's at home. It's just extra weight and space that we don't, you know, we can use for other things. So we've just got the shade sails at the end of the awning, and that really does the job for us. We don't really need it.
But the other cool thing about it, and that's, you know, having it on this side, is that it's always, whenever the awning's out, it's under the awning, it's in the shade. So for having a fridge on this side, a lot of people need to install a sail track and then do a custom bit of shade sail just to keep the sun off the vents, you know, to help with the efficiency of the absorption fridge.
Yeah.
Here, it's always in the shade. So we don't need to worry about any of that. So I kind of really like having the fridge on this side. I'll be honest, it's worked perfectly for us, and I quite enjoy it. So
the other benefit of that then becomes the location of the seating area. So on the vans where you've got your fridge and your kitchen on this side, and you've got your dinette on this side, you know, you're looking into your awning area, which at the moment is quite messy. So for us, when we, don't show them that, messy out there, you know, so we sit and we look out at whatever we're looking at. So at the moment we're in a caravan park, so we are looking at other vans and things. But if you're free camping, or if you're in an area with a bit more space, you'd be looking out at, you know, whatever it is, wherever you're at. Beautiful nature and things. We've been in places where it's just been really lovely to have, and we've been able to watch sunsets and things from the van, which is really cool. So yeah.
Oh, the other thing too.
You keep missing stuff.
Legs.
So yeah. Again, in the video, was it second video that you did that one in? You haven't posted it yet, no. Right? So I know you took video, but I wasn't sure whether you posted about it. So quite a few other people have done this as well, and this is where Nigel got the idea from. Is to put some, I think they're tent poles cut off to size, and screw them into, or drill a hole into the bed frame to stick the poles in, just for a bit of extra support.
Because our kids love running down here and jumping up onto the bed. Kids are kids. So as you can see, like where the base of the bed sits further back, and in transit you can push the bed in, but you know, we don't really bother. Like it's leave it as is. We put it with our, we'll leave it out. We have storage under there. We put our shoes, washing bag, but we have the bed legs out here so that, yeah, it gives you just that more support. So you can sit on the end of the bed without worrying about bending that end of that bed or having kids trash it as such. So, great idea to have. Very easy mod to do with any sort of queen bed and that sort of pull-out situation. But yeah, really good, very easy.
Yeah.
Apart from that,
that's our van, I think.
yeah, I mean, that's the official sort of layout tour of the van. And for us, it's perfect. I mean, it works really well for our layout. It's the right size. It's not overly big. It doesn't feel like we're pulling a behemoth sort of caravan as such. Like we've got all the things we need in here. We don't have to pop top. We don't have to pull out beds. It's, you know, and it fits really quite easy. It's a 20-foot sort of category.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works really well for us. And I just, you know, I much prefer to have a shorter van with all the bits and pieces. I much love having an island bed, queen bed for us, rather than having it run east-west where you got to, you know, kind of jump over somebody, which drives you up the wall.
Yeah.
So for us, queen bed, island bed was an absolute must.
Yep.
The bunks at the back end of the van, having them east-west, the kids don't care whether it's north, south, east, west. They'll sleep in a bunk. But it works really well, and that door at the back of the van, so people aren't walking past our bed all the time to get in and out of the van. So
kids drag in a fair bit of dirt, dust, rubbish when they come in and out of the van. So you know, it's not, they can have that at their own end and not at our end.
So just no, it works really well. We love this van.